Good afternoon and welcome to the Monday, August 12th, 2024 open session meeting for Kent County Public Schools Board of Education. The time is 5:03 p.m. and I officially have called this meeting open and to order. The first item on the agenda is the administration is recommending the approval of the agenda as presented this evening. Looking for a motion to approve.
I'd like to make a change to the agenda.
Okay.
I would like to move the personnel item from the consent agenda to be an individual vote.
Okay.
Okay.
We did it last month.
We did.
Okay, so that is your motion?
Yes.
Okay, Ms. Sullivan has the motion to remove personnel and make it its own separate item, which I'm assuming would be the new number 3. If everyone's in agreement, we would look for a second.
I'll second that motion.
Ms. McGee has the second. Are there any further comments or questions? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Not hearing any noes. The motion passes as presented. Thank you, everyone. The next item is to move into closed session. The Kent County Public Schools Board of Education members, this board, Dr. Mary McComas, the superintendent, Dan Hushin, supervisor of human resources, Adam Constance, legal counsel, and Gail Manley, executive assistant to the superintendent, will move to closed session under General Provisions Article 3-305B. And if I could just take 2 seconds. The first citation is 3-305B1. The topic is applicants for new hires, resignations, volunteers, transfers, extra pay, extra duty, and any other personnel matter. The reason to have this in closed session is that public discussion of applicants and employee names and personal information could discourage people from working for the board and contain sensitive personal and biographical information. Personnel information is protected from disclosure under the MPIA. The next citation is 3-305B7, to consult with counsel to obtain legal advice regarding U.S. Department of Education's 2024 updated Title IX regulations. The reason for closed session is substance of discussion is protected by attorney-client privilege. And the third citation is 3-103A1I. This is an administrative function, review findings and recommendations of ethics panel in response to complaint and administration of ethics policy procedure in response to ethics panel findings and recommendations. The reason for closed session discussion is that the substance of discussion is considered administrative function outside the scope of the Open Meetings Act, but is discussed during an otherwise closed session pursuant to 3-104. With that being said, do we have a motion to move into closed session?
I'll make a motion.
Ms. Sullivan has the motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Rhodes has a second. Any further comments or questions? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing no opposition, the motion passes. We are going to move into closed session, and we will be back at approximately 6:30 p.m. 2024 open session meeting of the Kent County Public Schools Board of Education. The time is 6:41. We apologize that we are slightly delayed coming back into open session, but we are here now, so it's a good thing. First up, coming in after closed session is to call this session to order. The Kent County Public Schools Board of Education, actually to report. Members of this board, Dr. Mary McComas, the superintendent, Dan Hushin, supervisor of human resources, Adam Constance, legal counsel, and Gail Manley, executive assistant to the superintendent, met in closed session under General Provisions Article 3-305B. The topics were broken into 3 citations. The first citation was 3-305B1. The topic was applicants for new hires, resignations, volunteers, transfers, extra pay, extra duty, and any other personnel matters. The reason for having this discussion behind closed doors, closed session, public discussion of applicants' and employee names and personal information could discourage people from working for the board and contain sensitive personal and biographical information. Personnel information is protected from disclosure under the MPIA. The second citation was 3-305B7. The topic was to consult with legal counsel to obtain legal advice regarding U.S. Department of Education's 2024 updated Title IX regulations. The reason for a closed session discussion is that substantive discussion is protected by attorney-client privilege. And the third citation was 3-103A1I, which was an administrative function topic, review findings and recommendations of ethics panel in response to complaint and administration of ethics policy procedure in response to ethics panel's findings and recommendations. The substance of discussion is considered administrative function outside the scope of the Open Meetings Act, but is discussed during an otherwise closed session pursuant to 3-104. The session was for information and discussion purposes only. No action was taken. Personnel actions will be voted upon by this board outside of consent agenda, which we had an amended agenda prior to going into close. So we are going to pull 4F outside of consent agenda, and we'll vote on personnel as a separate action item as we move forward tonight. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is Pledge of Allegiance, and I'm proud to welcome our next and newest student member of the board, Ms. Swanson. Ms. Swanson, if you could lead us, that'd be fantastic. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is swearing in of the student member of the board. So Ms. Swanson, if you could join me out front here. I'm a little slow, following.
That's what it is. That's not who she is, but that's good.
If I can just raise your right hand, repeat after me. I, Alden Swanson, do swear or affirm
I, Alden Swanson, do swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
and that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the state of Maryland
that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the state of Maryland,
and support the Constitution and laws thereof,
and support the Constitution and laws thereof,
and that I will, to the best of my skill and judgment,
and that I will, to the best of my skill and judgment,
diligently and faithfully, without partiality or prejudice, diligently and faithfully, without partiality
without partiality
or prejudice, execute the office as student member of the board
execute the office of the student member of the board
according to the Constitution and laws of the state.
according to the Constitution and laws of the state.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Welcome to the board. All right. Thank you for that. Okay, we're going to jump right into consent agenda. Consent agenda is covering all of the items listed in number 4, with the exception of 4F, personnel actions. We will call that afterwards. I do want to make note that the student member of the board will be voting upon the approval of minutes of the July 8th, 2024 open session meeting. All of the other items are financial in nature, so we'll have that vote. So with that being said, I'm looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make that motion.
Ms. McGee has the motion to approve. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second by Ms. Sullivan. Any further comments or questions? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ms. Swanson, your vote on personnel, I'm sorry, minutes?
Aye.
Very good. The ayes have it. The motion passes as presented. We will have the personnel actions next. Mr. Hushen.
Thank you, President Getz, Dr. McComas, school board members. Each month, the board receives a report of stated personnel actions in closed session. Those actions are discussed, and then a vote is held here in the open session. With that said, the administration recommends approval of those stated personnel actions.
Thank you, Mr. Hushen. Mr. Hushen just noted that the administration is recommending approval of the stated personnel actions. So we have a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion.
Ms. McGee has the motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Ms. Dorsey has the second. Any further comments or questions? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Any abstentions?
I will be abstaining from this vote.
Okay, the motion has it. The ayes have it. The motion is passed as voted upon. Thank you, Mr. Hutchin.
You're welcome.
Okay, Ms. Gale, do we have any public participation at this time? Okay, just a reminder, this is the first public participation session out of 2. The second opportunity will happen later in the evening, and so you can always come back up if you'd like. All right, we're going to move on to the superintendent's report. Dr. McComas.
So good evening, and I just have to say I love KCPS. I would like to open with expressions of gratitude for the number of people who have spent time meeting with me in the past month. Those people could choose to be anywhere, and they chose to make time for me to help us with Kent County Public Schools and in service to our children and young people. So in the past 4 weeks, I'm pleased to report that I've met with our county commissioners individually, of course, and our county executive. I've met with our county council of governments, law enforcement leaders, emergency management leaders, county health department leaders, Chesapeake College leadership, the YMCA leadership, and other local nonprofit leaders, all hosted at the Cultural Alliance Center, which we're appreciative of their hosting the event. I've met with Choptank Community Health leaders, our Rotary Club, and I was graciously interviewed by the SPY and WCTR Radio and the Evening Enterprise. And I toured our own WKHS student-run radio station with Mr. Singleton, along with meeting our fall athletic coaches and our bus drivers. Additionally, I want to express gratitude for our food service staff who have, as of today, provided a grand total, drum roll please, of 19,478 meals to students across 13 locations this summer. That breaks out almost evenly between breakfast and lunch, however, there were more lunches. So our work in KCPS never ends, and it's important that we lift that up throughout the summer. Our summer program will be highlighted later by our team, and I don't want to steal that thunder, so I'll leave that to them. I also want to thank our custodial team. I see we have a member of our custodial team in the audience today. They've been working diligently as a whole team, cleaning through our buildings, making sure that we are ready to go. I know when I walk into the high school, the floors are gleaming. I think I could fix my hair in that amazing shine. I know those who were at the athletic coaches meeting, we could tell that that was fresh wax the other day. As mentioned, I met with our bus drivers last week to welcome them back and to help recognize that they are the very first and the very last touch point that we have with our students each day. They make the difference if a student has had a difficult start to their day. And of course, they're the last person that sees them as we send them home to their families. And then, in addition to meeting with so many caring Kent County leaders, I've been participating in many local events throughout the summer, such as most recently last week, I participated in the Rock Hall Elementary School dunking booth fundraiser at the local Pirates and Wenches Festival. I look forward to the many back-to-school giveaway drives that are upcoming. Tomorrow evening, in fact, a local back-to-school drive is being hosted by local realtors, which I'll be attending. And then on Saturday, August 24th, I'll be in Fountain Park with the Hoyas back-to-school drive. And the very next day, on Sunday, August 25th, I'll be at the Minary's Dream Alliance back-to-school drive at the American Legion location. I'm also pleased to announce that today we launched our Back to School Central website, which serves as a one-stop shop for parents and families preparing for the school year. Please take a look at our website, and if you have by chance moved or changed addresses, it's critical that you update that with our school so that we have the proper address for transportation, so that first day of school goes off without a hitch for everyone. Additionally, I want to share that this Wednesday evening, H.H. Garnett Elementary will be hosting its Back to School Bash. I hope to meet many H.H. Garnett students and parents this Wednesday evening, 5:30 to 7. And in closing, we will be welcoming our new teachers to Kent County Public Schools next Tuesday, August 20th, and all faculty and staff return the following Monday, August 26th. And the truth is, we are down to only 12 work days left before our extraordinary students return. And I want to invite each and every one of you to fall in love again with KCPS this year, because I surely am. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. McComas. Appreciate that. Okay, we're going to move into the next item in the superintendent's report, the ratification of the 2024-2025 school bus contractor agreement. Mr. Wheeler.
Good evening, Dr. McComas. Get that right?
Yes,
All
sir.
right. Dr. McComas, board members, president of the board, Mr. Getz, members of the audience. This evening, I'm here to bring forth the school bus contract for the board approval. The administration is requesting the approval of the 24 to 28 school bus contract with a 2-year option to renew at the end of 4 years. Attached is a negotiated agreement. And the action, the administration recommends board approval of the 24-28 school bus contract with a 2-year option to renew at the end of 4 years.
As Mr. Wheeler noted, this is an action item. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Mr. Rhodes has the motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second by Ms. Sullivan. Any further comments or questions?
Can I just ask, how many drivers do we have?
We have 15 full-time drivers, and we're probably about 5 substitutes.
I know coming out of the pandemic, among other things, that there was a shortage of, there was a shortage of school bus drivers.
Yes.
Do we have enough?
We have enough, I'll say this.
Today?
We have enough, okay? That's what I will say. Today,
Okay.
we have enough.
Thank
okay?
you.
We have enough, and we have some subs.
Okay.
Okay.
Awesome, thanks.
All
Any
right.
additional questions? Okay, we have a motion on the floor, we have a second on the floor, and not hearing any additional questions, we will go ahead and call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing no opposition, the motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Wheeler, appreciate that. Do we need any signatures or anything there, or is there just superintendent, or?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, just don't let us run out.
I won't.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Wheeler, appreciate that. Okay, the next item on the agenda is board discussion, so we will go ahead and start. And Ms. Swanson, I'm going to put you right out front.
All right.
So you are more than welcome to start. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Hi, everyone. I wanted to introduce myself since I wasn't able to make it to July's meeting. I'm Alden Swanson. I'm a rising junior, and I'm the student member of the board. I'm really excited to be on the board, and I'm hoping to do some good in my position. Earlier today, I went to the SMOB orientation in Annapolis, which was amazing. I learned about the role of the board and what a board member's responsibilities are. I got to meet some really cool students from different counties in Maryland that had great insights and ideas, and it was just a really exciting and inspiring experience for me overall. So I'm glad that I got to do that. I have some events that I'd like to share coming up in the next few weeks, mostly from the high school, thanks to Mrs. Hemstedter's weekly email. But I'll have events for all the schools in the future. On Tuesday, August 13th, 2024, we have the athletic equipment handout at 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock. So if you need to get your sports equipment, you can, because on Wednesday, August 14th, the fall sports season begins, sorry. And then we have
the KCHS Brigade of Blue Band Camp starting, which I'm excited for, from August 19th to August 30th. And we've got open houses on Thursday, August 29th, where students and parents and guardians can meet teachers and visit classrooms at KCHS from 8 to 9, at KCEMS from 10:30 to 11:30, and at all the elementary schools from 2 to 3 p.m. And then school starts on Tuesday, September 3rd for grades 1 to 6 and grade 9, Wednesday, September 4th for grades 1 to 12, and then Thursday, September 5th, school begins for kindergarten and pre-K. I think that's all. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Ms. Watson, appreciate it. Welcome again. Ms. Dorsey?
Yes. First of all, I'd like to welcome Ms. Swanson. I'd like to welcome you to the board.
Thank you so much.
I'm glad to have you, and look forward to working with you. And other than that, the summer is almost over, so I'm looking forward to the beginning of this next school year. Hoping that I can walk in the shoes and fill the shoes that I have come to setting here, that I'll be able to be a help and work as a team to do what we can for Kent County Public Schools to make it a better place.
Thank you, Ms. Dorsey, appreciate that. Ms. McGee?
I also want to welcome Alden to the board. Looking forward to having another student's perspective. The last couple of student members of the board have been amazing and have enriched us every year, so I know you'll do the same. As Alden mentioned, sports start on Wednesday. It's hard to believe that the school year is starting, so that means there's going to be a lot more young people out on the roads, so let's all be vigilant about that. Just to give Dr. McComas a little bit of props here, she came, surprised us all, I think, and she showed up at the orientation for the sports coaches. And one of the things that didn't show up on her resume is that she'd been a high school coach, cross-country, swimming, and track. So she was right there with us. And then she got up a little later and spoke to all of us about professionalism and what was expected of us, that we're not just representing ourselves, but and the kids that we coach, but we're representing our school and our community. And I just thought it was great to hear that message from the person at the top. So that was really, that resonated with all of us. So I just want to thank you for literally showing up every day and already making this tremendous network. So awesome. See
Very
ya.
good. Go team.
Okay, thank you, Ms. McGee. Mr. Rhodes?
Thank you. I want to also congratulate you on being a member
Thank you.
of this board. I'm looking forward to the new school year. I think we have great opportunities, and I want all of our students to excel. I know we can do it. Much better than last year. Let's make it happen. I also went out to the high school, and it looks like the tennis courts are coming along pretty good. It's going to be nice. And the grounds are looking good out there. And then I go by the middle school every day, and that place looks magnificent. I'm really happy at how they're all being maintained. So I'll just keep it short. I know we've got a lot to do, but it's great to have you on here. We've done a lot in the community. I do want to know about the dunking tank. How that went.
I did get dunked. The little ones have a strong arm, I gotta tell you.
That's great. All right. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Rhodes. Ms. Sullivan?
I also want to join in with everyone and welcome our new SMOB, Alden. I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts and your perspective and the ideas that you bring forward, so thank you for running. Last week I attended MABE's Blueprint work session, and it was good to hear from other school districts and board members what successes and challenges that they're facing that are similar to what is our challenges for us here in Kent County. I also watched the AIB meeting, which is the state blueprint, the advisory group.
Accountability.
Thank you, accountability. Meeting on August 1st, and one of the things that they mentioned was that they're going to be revising their website and using a dashboard system to provide more transparency on LEA plans, so local school district plans and reviews. And I think that this will be a really great way for us and for the community to follow progress. So I'm looking forward to that. As Dr. McComas mentioned, several notices have gone out, but I just wanted to remind families to make sure if you have relocated, to please reach out to your school and update your contact information and address. Transportation is currently working on bus routes and needs that information as soon as possible. And I wanted to give a shout out to Mr. DeVillio for the Back to School Central page that is up on the website. It contains open house schedule, school lists, and other school opening info. And as Alden mentioned, the open houses are coming up quickly, August 29th, so put that on your calendar while you can. And it's hard to believe that it's almost at the end of summer and the start of the school year, and I'm looking forward to the start of the school year. I want to also encourage everyone to attend this year's Legacy Day celebration. This year, they're celebrating African American fraternal and community organizations in Kent County. Legacy Day is the weekend of August 16th and includes a parade, street party, walking tour, sales, lecture series, and more. This year, there are 2 exhibits. The main exhibit on display at the Bordley Center until the end of August will be focusing on community organizations. And then there's a second exhibit, which I think sounds really cool, which is going to be at Sumner Hall until the end of September, so plenty of time to go and view that. And that exhibit is titled Pride Without Prejudice, The Debutantes of Kent County. So it's all about the African American debutantes who have come through Kent County. So please try to attend if you are able. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sullivan. Just a couple of points here. Again, I'll just echo everything, Ms. Swanson, again, thank you for putting yourself out there to run for SMOG, for student member of the board. It's a pleasure to have you here. I look forward to working with you. As I'm sure there will be topics that you have a voice on and that you should speak up. So please, I encourage you to be a part of the conversation as we move through progressing into the school year. Just wanted to let everyone know that September 28th, this board with Dr. McComas will be having a retreat. The details on timing, that is a Saturday, timing, et cetera, will be worked out and communicated at the next board meeting. But we will be having a board retreat as we lay out our goals and plans for this year and the future. And I also know that in very short order, Dr. McComas and this board will need to start working on the next strategic plan. So the timing is kind of right there. So we'll definitely be having that, more details on that retreat to come out again, no later than obviously the next board meeting, which would be 2 or 3 weeks prior to that date. The last point, just again, and it was mentioned, start of school. It's crazy. Everyone's going to be ramping up, but I just wanted to wish everyone, students, parents, new teachers, when you're coming in, faculty, staff, existing teachers, our whole community, just to really enjoy it. It's a fun, crazy time of year, and with the resources we have, it's really exciting. This is just an exciting time of year, and I know everyone's going to start going bonkers to get launched. So thank you to everyone in the space, because it takes a lot of folks to make it happen. So thank you, and I wish you all the best of luck, and I can't wait to hear about it. So thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to education services. The next item, or the first item in that portion, is CCAC annual presentation. Dr. Keene.
Good evening, President Getz, Dr. McComas, members of the board. I want to present tonight a summary of our Special Education Citizens Advisory Committee activities that we have completed from the 23 to 24 school year. So we, by Maryland requirements, receive a grant every year through our LAF, which funds CCAC and the activities that we use to support CCAC. With that grant money, we poll parents and we ask, what's important for them to know. We have to meet a minimum of 4 times. We are lucky enough that we can meet every month. We meet at Kent County Middle School from 5 o'clock to 7. 5 to 5:30 is an open time for parents to meet with me and Dr. Costa-Gooding for any concerns that they may have or any questions they may have that they do not feel comfortable asking in the group. So presented tonight is a summary of activities that occurred each month. And I didn't know if you had any questions or about these activities that you wanted to ask now. We had great turnout at every meeting. Thank you, Mr. Getz. You were just at, I think, almost every single meeting this year that your work schedule permitted you to attend. And that's really important that our families feel very supported with that, and they make a lot of comments that, it's nice to see other administrators and board members at our CCAC. So thank you for attending. We also had quite a few of you at our May presentation on our data. I know that was very, very lengthy, and thank you, again, for attending that as well.
I just want to make a comment. We've talked about this before, I believe, this time last year. The fact that we're able to have the activities and the CCAC meetings monthly, it really speaks to the resources in this space and the topics that are brought in, the professionals that are brought in. It allows parents and your staff the opportunity to really connect, which is fantastic. But it's also a very real space. So it's not as if there's just a front or a sugarcoat. I mean, I've witnessed talking about very real, very open issues or opportunities, not only in our school system, but also kind of throughout the network. And what's really cool about it is that we have folks that also attend virtually from outside of the county.
Yes.
And, hearing some of the feedback from those folks about the support that we're able to give families compared to, and I'm not throwing stones in a glass house, I'm just
No.
saying that the support that we're able to give our students and families that they may not be getting in the space that they're in. It's not that they're not doing anything bad. What's great is they feel value, and we've opened our doors for their participation as well, and it's been received tremendously well. So
I was
thank
sharing
you.
with Dr. McComas when we first met about that. We have families now coming from Delaware, from the Middletown area to our CCAC to learn about different topics and for the presenters that we have. So it's a great opportunity.
Yeah, so just a thank you to you and your staff and all the folks in the schools, and also, the middle school for hosting and having that central space. I mean, it's really cool to be a part of that and to see it, so thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
So our next meeting is, we meet the fourth Wednesday of every month at Kent County Middle School from 5 to 5:30. We encourage all of our parents to attend. We have pizza, we have childcare. If you can attend in person, please attend online. We would love to see new faces. The ideas that new faces and new thought partners bring really opens our way of thinking as well and helps us not to be so stagnant. So we would love to have new voices at our tables as well. And of course, our parents, they bring lots of different perspectives, which always encourages us to think differently. And it's not that, how we were thinking was wrong or how they're thinking is wrong, but how do we work together and what is the best way to work with our parents?
Yeah, and I would just add the online version or option is great, especially when you're traveling and you're in California or Arizona. Just try to get the times lined up a little bit, but I'll just tell you that it really is great, and it's accessible, and you can hear, so, great job.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay, any additional questions or comments? Okay.
So September 25th is our next meeting. We hope to see everyone there. Our CCAC chair I cannot tell you who the presenter will be because she's still working out a contract and trying to secure her.
Great. Thank you, Dr. King, appreciate that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I think we're ready to go to the next item, is the fiscal year 25 special education staffing plan. Dr. King.
So this is a very lengthy report. I am not going to read it to you. I am assuming by now that you have read it and probably have a lot of questions. So our staffing plan is really built upon things we learn at CCAC. What is working well? What is not working well? What are some opportunities for changes, and what are some challenges that we need to focus on, whether it's through professional development, coaching, or maybe it's just a conversation we need to have. So when we think about the evidence of input, we're always looking at LRE. We're looking at our number of students, the efficient use of resources, but front and center is always our FAPE, which is our free appropriate public education. So we are always looking forward to, as we move throughout the year, on what will next year look like as well, and what supports are needed. As you know, last year we had to add a new language support classroom. in Rock Hall Elementary School. This year, we do not need to add any new programs because what we have will suffice for the needs of our students this year. So with part of our plan is also talking about the evidence of maintenance of effort. Maintenance of effort is important to make sure that we are not cutting funds to special education, but we are maintaining their programming as well. When we look at our staffing patterns, we know that this time of the year is always our lowest number, but as soon as those yellow buses hit the road, we know those numbers are increasing because those children are coming to our doors to be enrolled. So currently, the information that was taken from the plan was taken from the October 1st count of 2023, and then again of the count on August 1st of 2024. So we currently have 247 students enrolled, ages 3 through 21, into our Maryland Online IEP system receiving services. That looks a little different because our children who are in our extended infants and toddlers, or in our infants and toddlers program on extended IFSPs, are not necessarily counted in this, and we have about 9 additional students in that program that will be transitioning to preschool next year. So IFSP is our Part C world. That's our babies, 0 to 3. But if you're in the program before you are 3, you can stay on through that extended IFSP. IEP world, which is known as Part B, is ages 3 through 21. So those children who may have been part of an IFSP can have that choice to switch to an IEP at 3 or stay on their extended IFSP program. Typically, our families want those 12-month services, so they stay on that IFSP. So currently, there are 247 students enrolled. And then if you go to our infants and toddlers program, and I did not number the pages, and I'm so sorry, but it is the very first column on this landscape page. So currently, we have 36 infants and toddlers enrolled in our program as of August 1st, 2024. That does not include the children who we are currently evaluating because this is a 12-month program. Those services never stop, and those referrals never stop. So 36 infants and toddlers currently receiving services from July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2024. We had 48 referrals made to our infants and toddlers program. So what we have noticed is that some of the children who were referred have more significant needs, requiring more intensive services. We are working with child care providers, we are working with child care centers, Early Head Start, and our private partners under Blueprint for Pre-K. So 12 children, I'm sorry, I said 9, but it is 12 children as of right now. That does not mean, only 9 of those 12 will be transitioning to pre-K next year. But 12 children are receiving services through an extended IFSP. That means that we are looking at those services in community settings so that when our children get to pre-K, they're ready to be integrated with their non-disabled peers. They have those skills. So we do look at our child outcomes summaries to make sure that we're meeting those outcomes and making sure that we're meeting those federal targets. Child Find, last school year, we had a significant increase in Child Find referrals. Those are anyone from 3 through 21. So during the pandemic, those referrals weren't coming as readily as they are now. We had 74 referrals to special education last school year. Of those referred, 12 were referred for eligibility purposes who were not enrolled in Kent County Public Schools. So those could be students in private schools or 3-year-olds.
And do we provide services for them? We do? Do we provide services even if they're not enrolled in our school system?
Yes. So under our pass-through, a certain percentage is allocated to parentally placed private school students. We do have 3 that are receiving those services as of right now. So of those 74 children, 45 went through the evaluation process. 34 were found eligible for special education services. So when you think about the children who graduated, we will have more children this year than last year receiving services.
I remember, I think from the May meeting, that you talked about how there was sort of a recognition of over-identifying some students in the population, and I'm wondering if the eligibility requirements were changed at all based on trying to not over-identify.
No, our pre-referral strategies changed throughout the school years. So we've been working on that for the last 3 years. We are not over-identified in Kent County Public Schools as of today.
Nice, great, thank you.
So attached also is your numbers for each school and the services that will be provided by those teachers. So I'm going to skip ahead to our behavior support classroom. So we do have a behavioral and emotional support classroom, one at the elementary, one at the middle, one at the high school. There are strict requirements for children who are referred and determined that they may be eligible for placement in those programs, because we do not just say any child can go to a restrictive program here in Kent County. There are federal requirements as well. Our language support classroom and life skills classroom, we have one at Rock Hall Elementary School and one at Galena Elementary School. And then our life skills classrooms that are really looking at, those transition skills, what are needed to make children independent and to help promote that independence after high school. Of course, are at the middle school and the high school. Related services and support staff under IDEA. We are required to provide those services, and this outlines how Kent County Public Schools provides those. It can be through contract. We do contract out for our Spanish-speaking families so that our parents can be meaningful members of the IEP team. Just because they may not understand English or speak English fluently, we do provide somebody who can help interpret for them. One position being added this year is a sign language interpreter that will be added to Rock Hall Elementary School. And then we are also looking at how we are providing those services to our deaf and hard of hearing students, and we were able to hire a deaf and hard of hearing teacher. So our occupational therapy, she serves both Part B and Part C. We have a part-time CODA who also helps to provide those services, since we only have one occupational therapist, and we do only have one physical therapist. So speech language has been a tricky area. We have had an open speech language therapist position for quite some years now. Looking at Mr. Hushing, because I cannot remember how many years it has been. Yes. So this year, we feel that we have scheduled our students through our contractors to fully meet everyone's needs and to make sure that our students have those services. So we do have one part-time virtual speech language therapist who primarily works with our older students, and then we have one part-time face-to-face speech language therapist, one part-time speech language therapist assistant who works under her, and then we were lucky that we were able to contract with one additional speech language therapist to provide services 2 days a week, and then her third day will be for meetings and notes and IEP development. Our transition facilitator, we did remove the transition facilitator at Kent County High School. However, as you know, you have approved the Skills and Success class. So that Skills and Success class will be how we are meeting those needs of those students. So our special educators will be teaching that course with non-disabled peers to really look at those skills that are needed to write those high-quality transition plans that are leading those post-secondary outcomes. We do have 2 school psychologists, one on site, one face-to-face school psychologist, and then we have 1 virtual school psychologist. We are very lucky. She will fly in. She is from Ohio, but she does fly in, does a lot of assessments, and then participates in meetings virtually. We have had a lot of success with that. Itinerant vision services, they are contracted for those 4 students through Maryland School for the Blind, and I did discuss the deaf and hard of hearing services. Parentally Placed private schools, currently as of August 1st, we have 3 students who receive those services through a service plan. So they do not receive full special education services that you were asking about. They receive, our plan is that they can have OT 2 times a month if they need that, and speech language therapy 2 times a month, if that is needed, as part of their disability services. So all students who are pre-K and under do receive those full services because of the need for making sure that those adaptive skills, behavior skills, and social emotional skills are being met. Any questions about the parentally placed private school students before I move on?
You said that there were 3 this year?
Yes.
Is that about
As of right
average?
now, so we averaged between 3 to 6. Last year, we did have an increase in referrals from our private schools in the area. So those private schools are Kent School, the Christian Academy, the Seventh-day Adventist School, Montessori, and Radcliffe.
Right.
So special education teachers on conditional certifications, this was mandated by MSDE last year with those regulation changes. So any teacher on a conditional certification, while they are working towards that special education certification, but may not fully have met that yet, cannot do certain duties of a special educator. Those duties include eligibility meetings, development of that initial IEP, and the assessments to find that child eligible. So currently, we have 1 teacher at Garnett Elementary School that is on a conditional certification, 1 at Galena, 1 at Rock Hall Elementary School, 2 at Kent County Middle School, and I believe now it's 4 at Kent County High School. So that change happened today. So we work with those teachers to make sure that, they're getting that professional development that is needed to make sure they're providing those high-quality services. They just cannot necessarily do all the duties of a special education teacher. Professional development is a huge area for special education. We monitor our students and our data quarterly at a minimum. Sometimes it is monthly, sometimes it is bi-weekly. So when we look at what the federal government is monitoring us on, some areas where we have been found, hey, you can do a little bit better in this area. We have actually met all of our state target for our least restrictive environments. So our LRE data is important because we don't want to be over-identifying children for restrictive placements. Children learn best with their non-disabled peers in general education classrooms, receiving that education that is aligned with standard-based education. So we also are looking at our racial demographics and making sure that we are not disproportionate and over-identification of subgroups. So we have been found in the past to be over-identified with African American student group in identification, and then again in other health impairments and specific learning disabilities. Through our pre-referral strategies, we've been able to really tighten up that MTSS, which is our multi-tiered system of supports, to really look at that data and say, okay, who really needs to go to that IEP table, so that we're not just referring every child to special education. So Kent County Public Schools did not have to write It is called a CCEIS plan this year, Comprehensive Coordinating Early Intervening Services, because we have made significant progress to decrease the number of students on that risk ratio, that we are not found to be significant disproportionate in those categories. However, you will see that we are sitting at 2.03, and this is lag data. This is from 2 years ago. So when we look at that data, we are over-identified by 0.03, because 2.0 is the number that they say you are disproportionate. However, if you look from the previous year, we were able to take that from 2.6. So we made significant progress. The progress the state wants us to make is 0.15. So we were sitting there with bringing our risk ratio down by 0.57 points. Same with specific learning disabilities. We are over-identified at 2.18, but we are not considered by the state to be significantly disproportionate because we have made significant progress from 2.65 of a risk ratio of the previous year. So we also look at our reading and math proficiency rates, and how we measure that is not just by one standard. We measure that, but with multiple different standards. So our proficiency rate, you will see that we did not meet the state target in reading grade 4, but we did in reading grade 8. We exceeded that. And we did not meet it with high school. However, the gaps in the proficiency, we did meet those gaps. So when we look at our data, we look at that and we say, so based on what non-disabled peers are performing, how are special education students performing? The state says there's a target, you're not supposed to be over a certain gap, and we have been able to meet that. So we also look at our data from our MAP assessment, the measures of academic progress. So you will see here the information for all the grades 2 through 8. So we have changed our reading program and how we are teaching children to read this year with full implementation. So you will see fall to spring data, and you will see that our students did with disabilities, made significant progress in those grade levels. Same with math. While we did not necessarily meet those state targets for proficiency in math for grades 4, 8, and high school, we did meet the gap proficiency and exceeded that in our comparison of non-disabled peers to disabled peers. So again, when we look at how we are teaching math, we have a new math program, illustrative math, and we have been able to help close that gap for students with disabilities. So we are making continuous progress, but we still know we have a ways to go. So with that, our professional development this year definitely is focusing on that co-teaching model. We have partnered with CTE to make sure that our students are receiving that high-quality instruction in their CTE courses, making sure that we are looking at those transition activities. We continuously look at our SST process of the pre-referrals, and we are also looking at, improving the reading and math proficiency, and then, of course, the capacity of our special education teachers for early childhood and our infants and toddlers team as we're looking at a year-long professional development around reflective coaching, which is an evidence-based practice for early childhood. So I know this is a ton of information, so I'm willing to take any questions now.
The 23 data we'll see at the end of next year?
It will come out May of this year, yes, 25.
And then I also recall that they were adjusting or completely revamping the KRA, the kindergarten readiness
Yes.
assessment. Had they rolled out the
No.
new? Okay.
No.
Okay.
Stay tuned.
I
Stay
have a
tuned.
question. I had a question
Sure.
about special education teachers on conditional certification.
Mm-hmm.
Are these teachers that are on their way to get certified, or?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so they're
Yes.
going to be eventually, they're just,
Yes.
okay, got it.
So they're taking either coursework or their praxis to be certified in special education. They may have a four-year degree and a conditional teaching certificate, but they want to work with special education students, so they have to receive a little bit more training.
Did any of them come through our Grow Our Own program?
Not yet.
Okay.
That program is still in the early stages, but it has also changed with these certification regs for special educators on that certification. I think they have 3 years to get everything done compared to the 5 that all other content areas have. So there is more of an intensive need for support.
Okay.
Great.
I just want to commend Dr. Keene and the team around the work that they did last year around MTSS, and that making sure that we're providing just-in-time intervention services for students. That does not necessarily mean that they are disabled. They may just need some extra support. And many school systems don't lean into that area, and that results in over-identification. But our team did, and we can see the results on that. So I really want to make sure that that doesn't go unrecognized, because that's making a difference. And it doesn't mean a child's necessarily disabled. So
Right.
thank you for that.
Thank you.
I always say we all have deficits.
That's right.
I mean, I can't run 5 miles, so doesn't mean that I have a physical disability, but, I mean, and that's something that is important for all of us to remember, is that every child needs a little extra help somewhere.
Any additional questions? Okay, this is an action item.
Yes.
The administration is recommending board approval of the special education staffing plan for school year 2024-2025. Do we have a motion to approve? Ms. Dorsey has the motion to approve. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Sullivan. Any further comments or questions? With the absence of comments or questions, we'll go ahead and call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ms. Swanson?
Aye.
The ayes have it. The motion is passed. Thank you, Dr. Keene.
And I do need your signature on this plan, Mr. Getz, as the president.
Would you like to do that now so that in case you do want to leave early? Great.
Thank you, Mr. Getz.
Why would you want to leave early?
I'm keeping Mr. Wheeler to the end of the night, but I'm not letting Dr. Keene. No, I'm just, Mr. Wheeler, sorry. Just on the front here.
Yes.
That's a nice presentation. This is 12, right?
Yes, it is.
Great. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move into the next portion of the evening, 2024 Summer Camp Program highlights, and I see Ms. Giacomo is ready to go, so.
Good
please.
evening, President Getz, Dr. McComas, members of the board. This evening, I'd like to share 2 brief presentations. The first one is about the summer camp. We had many students, 70 to be precise, that participated in our summer academy. As you know, the grants that were funding our summer schools in the past expired, and so in Kent County, we wrote a competitive grant, and we were awarded a grant that allowed us to serve the students in our county beginning in grades 1 through grade 8. The KEEP Camp program is one that's a blend of both a focus on academics to help students minimize summer learning loss, as well as social skill development and activities. So it's a lovely blend. These are actually our students in the photos as well. Aren't they adorable? And to move on, you'll see this camp took place at Garnett Elementary School. I would like to recognize our 2 site coordinators, Courtney Whitby and Roberto Copeland. They were phenomenal this summer. There is so much that goes into pulling off a successful summer camp. Also, the presence of our principal, Brenda Rose, who was very supportive throughout the entire process. This program combined students from the 3 elementary schools, and the students received, again, ongoing academic and social-emotional lessons throughout the summer. It wouldn't be summer without the partnership that Kent County is so proud of our many local partners. Echo Hill, Character Counts, you can see listed a variety of them here. And this is also another part of that competitive grant. If you're going to write the grant, you must show that this is something that's of value not only in the school system, but in the community as well. There were many highlights throughout the summer, but I think the words of our students and parents speak more than anything else. And one child said, "I feel like the teachers care about me." And you can just see the words of the children, I think, say it all. And a parent said, "My children were excited to attend each day, and that speaks volume." Good job, guys, from a parent. The academics this summer, because we do have teachers sometimes that may teach a grade level other than what they teach during the school year, the team looked for evidence-based programs and focused on a program called Summer Scholars. From that, they whittled it down to the standards that our students needed the most attention on throughout the summer and used that to really be precise about the lessons that were to be taught over the course of those 12 days that they were together. And so that's in addition to the time, both pre and post-assessment, which are also part of this. In language arts, it strengthened reading comprehension, critical thinking, and also involved creative writing. In mathematics, the focus was reinforcing problem solving. And again, as we look at our data, it's very clear that our students are strengthening their ability to solve the problems, but it's that explaining how they arrived at the process where they struggle. So they had more opportunities to focus on this during the summer. But I think if you were to ask the students, probably what they'll remember the most, it's those engaging activities like the STEAM activities that they participated in throughout the summer. We had the good fortune of our continued partnership with Character Counts and a Character Counts coach this summer who provided lessons which were infused throughout the program based on the 6 pillars of character. There was a counselor on site that also supported all the SEL and counseling lessons as well. Beyond that, there were clubs that were an extension of the program, everything from team sports to readers' theater. And on the many visits, you would see our students dancing and singing and creating arts and crafts. I do want to say that our teachers and the leaders in the summer want to thank Dr. McComas. She was present multiple times and in and out of classrooms throughout the summer program. So we appreciate your support. And I think that you were there on your first day. You were on site as well. So we thank you for that. Not only is it the elementary and middle school program that I just described, but I didn't want to forget to mention that our high school was also offering credit recovery during this time. And Ms. Tish Collins did a phenomenal job really working with the staff to see that our high school teachers that needed to recoup those credits were given the opportunity, the support, and the resources to do so. And this slide describes some of the highlights that happened throughout the course. I love the ending. Overall, the students came in willing to work and asked for assistance as needed. And by week 3, they really were able to end 1 week earlier than expected. 7 students earned a total of 9 credits in that last week. In the middle week, a total of 18 credits, and the very first week, a total of 12 credits. So a great celebration for Kent County High School. On top of that, sort of like the icing on the cake, our Judy Centers were offering parent-friendly activities throughout the entire summer. The Galena Judy Center had a theme, Grow With Us. And again, these are emphasizing students perhaps that haven't hit the doorstep yet of the school, and they're oftentimes parent and child activities that are held together in the form of a play group. You can see the activities listed below. Same is true for Garnett. Again, the number of students, their theme for the summer, Down on the Farm, offering a number of play groups and activities throughout the summer. I love the pictures. And the very last is our Rock Hall Judy Center, focusing on school readiness, play groups, and both weekly and daily play groups offered. Weekly play groups offered, but theirs were offered not only on site, but at times off-site as well. So again, I think we have a lot to be proud of in terms of not thinking necessarily as summer as a time for quiet relaxation. But boy, we try to keep our students engaged in a way that's fun and meaningful for both our students and their families as well. So are there any questions about the summer program?
I've got a question. What's the difference between what we're offering and Horizons?
Horizons has a very targeted audience that they offer their program to, and I think for us, we have a different matrix. So when we are identifying students for our program, we partner with Horizons, and there are some students that may qualify for both, but because of that partnership, the parents will often choose Horizons because it is for a longer period of time.
It's 6 weeks.
Right, but it's offered to a smaller, to fewer students.
Yeah, I was just saying, like, your field trips, some of those were the same things that they did.
We try to make it more collaborative. I think there were years in the past where it became more of a competitive nature, but we know in advance that it's going to benefit our students if our principals and our central team work with the Horizons team, and we just figure out who's going to be the best fit for what program.
So this was also the first year that we had Judy Centers in all our elementary schools, which is pretty amazing. Is this something that we're going to be able to do every summer?
So
Is the hope?
absolutely yes for the Judy Centers.
Okay.
The grant for the 21st Century is a competitive grant. We're in the process right now of writing it again. We had the good fortune for over the past, I don't know, I feel like 5 years to be able, through all the COVID funding, that was a priority for the district. So every school had their own summer program. That came to a halt.
Right.
So I think this grant is critical, and we're hopeful that we'll be able to do that for another 2 years.
Great, thank you.
Any additional questions? Okay, this was for information only. No action was required by the Board of Education. Thank you, Ms. Jacomowitz. Next, we have these 2024 summer curriculum writing highlights.
Thank you, President Getz. And for this one, if it's okay, I will not do a presentation. I just want to give you a quick summary and reiterate the piece that I said a moment ago, which is the misconception that summer's a time to really relax, kick back, and slow down. Our teachers were in full gear, needless to say. And when I hand you the flyer in just a moment, you will see the number of teachers that participated in 3 comprehensive days of what we call curriculum writing. So during that time, there were, again, few days, but many, many accomplishments. Our teachers in the area of science, as you may recall, we've just recently purchased new science curriculum, both for the elementary and middle school level. So the science teachers had an opportunity to get together and unpack that curriculum and develop a Kent County scope and sequence. So although I'm not going to give it to you in here, I would love to talk to you about that in more detail at any time, so just let me know, and we'd be happy to share with you samples of the curriculum guides and other pieces. We get super excited about that type of thing. They also looked at commitments they are making as a science team, such as specific word walls at the secondary level and at the elementary level, complementary vocabulary lists that will be emphasized to build those academic skills during the science units. In high school math, we had 3 teachers participate in the curriculum writing, and they worked on revising unit assessments. That is not something that comes easily, and we know that there are packaged assessments, but what our teachers do is use their skilled expertise to look at those and see if we need to make any tweaks along the way, so we have those quality lessons and assessments prepared for the opening of the school year. The geometry teachers looked at the summer assignments, and Algebra 2 teachers, again, focusing on pacing guides. At the elementary level this summer, I think you heard Dr. Keene mention some of the fabulous work that's been done in partnership with special education and general education to really look at those foundational skills. Well, this summer, we were looking at the elementary level, using the OG and Wonders materials to try to look at updating the sequence in ways that will really help them be able to have access to the resources that they need. So teams of teachers, under the guidance of Michelle Serino and Dr. Gooding, Dr. Costa Gooding, work together to really look at those what they call open resources, such as Fish Tank and Bookworms, and trying to see how we can pull from those open resources to strengthen what we have. And finally, in the area of middle school ELA, you may have noticed in the hallway, we have a delivery of new wit and wisdom. So we are constantly looking at ways to take the information we have, and what we've done at this point is we have ordered complementary novels for the middle school English language arts curriculum. So this summer, they were looking at novels that can complement those units to help them. And at the high school level, amazing high school team, 4 teachers working together at a process you've heard us describe before, where they scroll through the units. And when they scroll through a unit, they're looking at common assessments in a unit, the resources that go along with it, as well as any particular writing tasks. And for Dr. McComas, last but not least, social studies. Our government team worked on rewriting the final exam, and again, developing the history through film curriculum, and also unpacking TCI for U.S. and world history, looking at their pacing guides, finals, and midterms. So again, few number of days, big number of accomplishments. And I just want to give a shout out to the teachers that took those days to work so intensely for a small system to achieve those big accomplishments.
We are still offering the African American History course, is that correct? But it's not an AP course at this time?
I do not have the high school schedule in front of me, so I would prefer to defer to Chris Hemstetter. I know, I'm not sure. I know that we have access to it, and I know that this time last year it was offered in the fall as an elective.
Right.
I can follow up on that and let you know. Thank you.
Thank you.
May I give you the handout before I?
Sure.
And are there any questions?
Any additional questions?
Thank you all so much.
I'd just like to thank Ms. Giacomowitz and the team. It's curriculum writing is truly a time for our teachers to sink deeply into the work in a way that is different than they can do during the school year when they're working directly with young people. It really is a time for us to sink deeply into quality control around what we do, and allow the professionals time to collaborate with each other around the work. So I just want to thank the team for leading that. Clearly, you heard there was a great deal of deep quality work that was conducted in those short number of days. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. McComas. We did get an answer. The answer is yes, they are offering that course in the fall. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sources tell me. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hemstetter and team, for the quick response.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Giacomowitz, appreciate it. Okay, we're going to move into the grades 6 through 12 Blueprint Career Counseling.
Good evening, Dr. McComas, President Getz, and members of the board.
Good evening.
I'm here this evening with our Blueprint, our 6 through 12 Blueprint Career Counselor, Mr. Brett King, to walk you through kind of the context of career counseling in the Blueprint. That'll be what I address. Mr. King will be up to talk about the goals of the program that we adopted for this year, the specific online program that we use to provide this experience for students, some data on the students that he served, and then I'll be back up to talk a little bit about where we see career counseling moving in the future. So career counseling, this is a Blueprint program. You have 2 separate statutes at work here. The first simply tells us what we need to do through career counseling. The purpose of career counseling is to, as you can see, help students choose one or more of those post-CCR pathways, whether that's dual enrollment, advanced placement courses, career and technical education or apprenticeship, and to try our best to align that pathway with the goals that student sets. The other statute in the Blueprint provides the funding source for that. So we knew that we would receive $62 per K through 12 student that was enrolled. That's our funding source. And we were also told through that statute that our career counseling program needs to be implemented in partnership with the Upper Shore Workforce Investment Board and our local community college. So that's what we were given in the law. I will now allow Mr. King to come on up here and talk to you a little bit about what we did to actualize that plan.
Good evening. Our plan going in, we knew we had kind of half a year because I was able to start in January. So we wanted to have a plan that was large, but we could do. We can make sure it happened. So our goals this year was to make sure we met with every 6th, 7th, 8th grader and 9th grader. We want to make sure that we hit all them, as well as at least the seniors that might not have a plan going forward. We did do that. We met with all the 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, as well as the 9th graders. We met with all of them at the middle school. We went there, and we met with them as classes in very large groups. The freshmen, we met with twice. We met with the first time with CTE rotation, where we kind of, we took them to all the different CTE that we offer at the high school. We met with them in classes, and then I met with them one-on-one. So we sat down, we talked to each one of them individually, and kind of put together a plan of what they wanted after high school. What is their goal, and how can we help them reach that? Seniors were referred by their counselors. The counselor would email me, I would pull the student, and then we would get together and just have a conversation about what it is that they would like to do and how it is that I can help them do it. Some of them, it was just merely, I need to apply to colleges, where can I find this college? And then we would find the college that fit them, or is, I want to do this sort of job, how do I make that next step? How do I get into a career leaving the high school? We went with Pathful. This is the program that we chose. Naviance was an option, and we decided to kind of move away from that because of the clunkiness of the actual lessons. We felt these ones were a lot smoother. They helped us track things a lot better, with students starting in 6th grade and then finishing in 12th grade. We felt that the assessments that it offered were easier for them to take, easier for them to understand, and it was easier for us to take that data and then move it along down the path to help them choose a career, as opposed to Naviance, where it felt like things were very clunky, and students could take an assessment, but I couldn't see the results of that assessment unless the student was there, so it made it hard to kind of do my homework before they got to me. So we went with Pathful because I could do that homework before they got to me, so I kind of had a plan of the conversation and how I could help them. Here's how it looked with the students. In 6th grade, we met with about 81% of them, which is 99 out of the 122, and we sat down with them and we did an assessment. We talked about kind of their personality and things that they do that might make them happy, right? If you're happy and you find a job that makes you happy, then you're going to be happy in life. You have a better chance, at least. And so we sat down, we talked about personalities in a career, and then we had them take the RIASEC assessment, which would show us kind of what it is that they do well. If you find that you're doing something well, then obviously it's something you can be successful at. In 7th grade, we met with 80% of the students. We talked about what the 17 career clusters were, everything from education and training to being an athlete or being an entertainer as it is. There's 17 career clusters, and they kind of sat down and they learned which ones that they aligned with best. So it would show them all 17, and it would show them, this is the one you aligned with the most, and this is the one you aligned with least. An example that I like to use with them is me. When I took this one, I was very high in building. I was very high in wanting to understand how things worked, and my third highest was education and training. And I let them know, hey, I'm in education and training, but understand, I taught engineering. Just because that's not the top one doesn't mean you can't do something related to that field. 8th grade, we met with about 74%, and because they were in 8th grade, we did both these with them. So we did both of them at the exact same time, so that when they got to 9th grade, we kind of have that baseline data to move forward with. With 9th grade, we met with 97% of them. The 3% we missed, I'm very sure don't exist. They were hard to find. And we met with 97% of them in a class, and then we also took them out on the CT rotation. That 97 in class, we did the exact same thing as the 8th graders, because we needed that baseline data to move forward. Next year, it won't be like that, because we'll already have that baseline data. They'll be doing more with building resumes and interview skills is what ninth graders, because we did that last year with the eighth graders already. So then we took them around on the CTE rotation day so they could see all the CTEs we have to offer. We wanted to do that, it's something we've always done, but we wanted to do it a little differently this year. In the past, we took them around, they saw them all, then they came and talked to their counselors and said, oh, I really like this one, I want to do that one, which sounds very nice, except for, we all know high schoolers, lots of times you kind of get with your friends and you say, hey, I like this one, and then your friend's like, yeah, I like that one too, let's do that together so we can be together. We want to take less focus on that and kind of focus more on what is good for you in the future, not good for a very good time tomorrow. So that's kind of, we did that, but with a little bit more focus. Then we met with all of them, 118 to the 124, and we talked to them, we reviewed what is it their goals were. We talked about what CTEs might align with that, what courses might align with that, and then we made sure that we got that information, they had it, we got it to the counselors, and next year we want to do a better job of getting it home as well, just so we all are on the same page at the school. If they know the goal, and I know the goal, the counselor knows the goal, we all have the same plan, there's a much higher chance of success that way. The pathways that we found, these are the CTE pathways. This is last year's data in white and this year's data in blue. And you'll see food and beverage dropped way down from over 35, they had about 34 kids, and they're going to be at close to 15 or 16, which sounds bad, but you're going to have 15 or 16 kids that are very much in love with that, as opposed to 30 kids that went there because I love grilled cheese sandwiches. You'll see TAM did the opposite. They had fewer kids, and now we have more that want to be in that. And I think that's because when we met with kids and we talked to students that said things like, oh, I want to be a psychiatrist, or I want to coach basketball someday. We said, well, that's education. You have to understand how people are in order to teach them. So we had a lot more students saying, okay, instead of going into some of these other ones that might be fun, let's go ahead and get into that TAM pathway, because even though I might not want to be a teacher, I still am in the area of what I am passionate about. You'll see the same thing happen with a lot of these. Some came down, some came up. Also take into account that we are adding computer science this year, which is going to take away from some, right? If they're going into that, then it's others that are coming out. And we also have a apprenticeship, which is also doing some similar things. Other things that we did this year, like I said, we met with those seniors, and the ones that were leaving that didn't have a plan, we sat with, I think it was about 25 of them that we sat with, that I sat with, and we kind of put together a plan, whether it was a last-minute plan, because a lot of them waited to that last minute to get there, or whether it was just filling out applications. How can I get into this apprenticeship program, or how can I do this? I helped with Drop-In Fridays, which is something the counselors have started doing last year, I should say, where every Friday we hang out in a very fun room, and during lunches, the seniors can come down and just get help with whatever it is that they might happen to need help with, whether it's filling out an application, whether it's an essay, or whether it's doing anything that might help them move forward after high school. We did a lot with military recruitment meetings. We hosted all of them in the career suite, as well as we had the ASFABs there as well. I think we had 3 or 4 actually going to it, but we have a lot more interest in younger ones that now have an idea of what it is that they might want to do, so that we can work towards that their senior year instead of waiting to that senior year to start making those adjustments. We also had college, career and college week, where we had just a plethora of different events at the high school that ended in the career fair, which is something Andra does, and she does extremely well.
So just want to reiterate that the work that Mr. King was just walking you through is what he accomplished in basically one semester, having been on board a bit later than we had hoped. So I think it was a lot of work that we were doing in the 6 through 12 in a very short period of time. So moving forward, we realize the impact of career counseling and what it can have on the district. So we have hired a second career counselor to work specifically at Kent County Middle School. That is not paid for through the blueprint. That's paid for through the federal Perkins grant, which provides resources for CTE. So we'll have another member of our team. We are working on the development of career language aligned to the RIASEC model. Those are the Holland codes. These are, it's essentially a common, very understandable language that students, teachers, families can use to talk about individual interests and how they align to career. So it's new to us. We've dove into that over the last 6 months. We really want to internalize that ourselves as professionals, spread that out to students and to teachers so that they can be doing this work without our supervision. And that goes into the third point. Our overall goal of career counseling is to generalize career exploration and self-exploration into core content areas through this language and through the Pathful program. So we'll leave it at that as our review of career counseling for the year. If you have any questions for me or Mr. King, we'd be happy to answer those.
Thank you for putting together this presentation. I find the data really interesting, and I'm curious if it would be possible, maybe I'll have to ask Mr. DeVillio, to have a career counseling page on the KCPS website that could maybe show some of this information. I think it'll do a couple things. It will help the community know about what CTE programs we offer and what the interest is in those different programs. And I'm wondering, on the Pathways slide, are those actual enrollments or just interest?
No, those were, when we had the conversation, those are the ones the students said, I want to be part of. When they met with the counselors, those numbers did change slightly, but it wasn't anything dramatic. It might be 1 or 2 students out of this one and 1 more into this one. And some of them were, when we had the conversation with the students, they were very much between them. Whether it was a student that might want to be a vet, trying to pick between going into the hospital, the nursing pathway, or the agriculture pathway. They both have a very good reason to be there, and the student might have just been deciding which one they felt like fit them better.
Did you find that there were any things that we aren't offering that kept coming up, like something that?
There's a very large list, if you would like to go over that.
But was there like any one thing that?
The ones that came up most often were like cosmetology and things that we don't offer, but we are trying to hit those with the apprenticeship and things like, we haven't found that one, we haven't found it yet, but I tell students I am working on it, it's on my radar. Another one was business, just straight business, which is something we are working on as well.
Didn't we used to do some kind of shared cosmetology program with Queen Anne's?
Not that I'm aware of.
Am I making that up?
You are making that up.
My apologies.
Ms. McGee, what do you remember?
Thank you very much.
Did we have anything?
I'd like to say that this information is really important because I talk to a lot of people around this county, and we need a lot of this work. We need people in like electricians, plumbers, and all these kind of folks that could stay here and get a job and stay in this county because we're losing people. And I just think it's really important what you're doing now. I'm looking at all these different, like the construction. Now, do you have, in the summertime, can people apprentice a job? How do you work that out if they want to?
At the moment, we are running the apprenticeship program over the summer, but a lot of it, because it's summer, we can't exactly grade it. They can count those hours, because at the end of the apprenticeship program, they need 450 hours. So we can count those hours. I think at the moment, we have, six students out there just gaining hours. And when they come back, one of the first things we'll do is sit down and kind of track those hours so that we can get them on record for those hours.
I just think it's wonderful what you do. We need this around here, like veterinarians and farmers and all that kind of stuff. So people are clamoring for it.
I think we're on the right path.
Okay, any additional questions?
I just want to give a shout out to both of these guys, especially Mr. King. I remember thinking, losing him as the engineering teacher. And one of the ways, because you're so popular and did an amazing job, and one of the ways that Dr. Couch made it more palatable for us to accept that was you're able to have an impact on so many more students now, and you bring it, you have a great way of your relationship with students, and you have your enthusiasm, and I just think that's really important, and it shows in the numbers. And to dovetail on what Mr. Rhodes said, and what Ms. Sullivan asked Mr. DeVillio to put that on our website is, There's so many people that have no idea what we offer in our schools because they've never been in our schools. So we have so much more to offer than people give us credit for, so thank you, guys.
Great.
I was going to say the same thing about, that I was going to miss Mr. King doing the engineering capstone presentations, because that was always a highlight for me. So, thank you for this work, though.
Thank you both. We appreciate it. That's great. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move into the fiscal year 2025 school calendar update. Mr. Hushin.
Thank you, President Getz, Dr. McComas, school board members. Just have a quick report for you this evening that is for approval. Due to collective bargaining, there are some contractual holidays that are now extended, and I'll just draw you to the actual school calendar template. There are two notable changes, and they are December 23rd, which is a Monday. Offices were closed, were open that day, and then as a result of collective bargaining, they are now closed. And then the same happens with Thursday, April 17th, where they were offices were open, but now they are closed. So with that said, I am asking on behalf of administration for approval of the school calendar updates.
Great. Please.
Sorry, this doesn't affect the number of student school days?
Has no impact on students whatsoever.
Okay.
If I may, they were originally closed for students already, but not for staff.
Gotcha. Okay.
This is only a staff impact.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, this is an action item. The administration is recommending approval of the stated changes to the fiscal year 2025 school calendar. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion.
Ms. Sullivan has the motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Rhodes has the second. Any additional comments or questions? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ms. Swanson?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Motion is passed. Thank you, Mr. Hushin. Appreciate
You're
it.
welcome.
Okay, we're going to move into administrative services. Ms. Stewart.
Good evening, everyone. President Getz, Dr. McComas, members of the board, our new student member, welcome. We're going to go over our expenditure and revenue report, and this is as of July 31st, 2024. We are at the start of the new year, so this is just the beginning. All right, we start with Fund 1, which is our current expense fund, and we've received to date about $4.6 million. Our Fund 3, which is our school construction, none to date. Our Fund 5, which is our food service, we received about $80.8 thousand. And then our Fund number 7, which is our trust and agency fund, no funds were received to date, bringing us to a total cash receipts as of July 31st, 2024, $4,688,396.63. As we move forward into our current expense fund and looking at the expenditures, you will see that to date we've expended about 24% of our funding. Majority of that, if you notice the encumbrance column, are salary and wages that are encumbered for the year. Our school construction funding, we have not expensed anything to date, but this $3.5 million is collective local and state funding to go along with the KCMS Planning and Design Project. We go to our food service fund. We've expended about 23% of that funding, and you know, again, encumbrances, that is pretty much the salary and wages that have been expended to date. And then our restricted funding. If you recall, when it comes to our restricted funding, we are still undergoing our audit process, so we don't necessarily do the rollover until we complete that, so that we can have a clear view of what actually is getting rolled over into the new year, as we are still undergoing expenses and making recodes to these grants. But what has been expended, which you will see, is any grants that are past 6:30, meaning that they have an end date possibly of 8/31 or 9/30, or end date as of even 2026. So that is here. Which brings us to the final page, which gives you the funding overview, comparing the receipts and expenditures, looking at it overall and all of the funding sources. Any comments or questions?
This is probably a question for Dr. McComas, but it occurred to me when you talked about food service, about whether or not we qualify again this year for the free lunch program in all our schools.
I'm pleased to say we do qualify for CEP at all our schools.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, thanks for the question.
Any additional questions? Okay. We are going to move, thank you, Ms. Stewart. We are going to move into procedure 900-2, curricular, co-curricular, and extracurricular field trips. Mr. Wheeler.
Yes. Good evening. Dr. McComas, President Getz, members of the board, audience. This evening, I'm here to bring field trip procedure 900-2. The administration is requesting approval of the field trip procedure as revised by Kent County Public Schools Transportation Department. Attached is the revised field trip procedure 900-2. The field trip procedure was last updated in 2011. And as everyone knows, back in 2011, we had all contractors. We had an LLC. So we have changed the way we do business at this point. So as you can see throughout the procedure, we've changed the language from LLC to contractors, because we have individual contractors now that are assisting us with field trips as well. And majority of the field trips are being done in-house with our county drivers. But we do give out field trips to individual contractors. And as you can see, the process for assigning individual field trips, that has been changed as well. That is done on a as-need basis, and that is done by the supervisor of director of transportation or his designee.
This only is for field trips, it's not sports, the
This is
sports?
sports trips, field trips.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, any additional questions regarding this policy?
So this is,
Procedure.
go ahead.
I was just going to say, were the changes basically related to, because we're now not an LLC anymore, and they're, okay.
Exactly. Yes, ma'am. Yes, because we don't have an LLC anymore. So
Gotcha.
that language was outdated. So we went through and updated that language.
Okay, thank you.
We have, I've seen, I believe, a field trip policy, but then we also have a policy that's specifically for overnight field
Yes.
trips?
So what I will be doing is, I'll be bringing those to the board.
Okay.
We're going to update those procedures monthly. So
Okay.
I'll be bringing them to the board.
Great, thank
Okay?
you.
No, you're fine, man.
Any additional questions? Okay, this is for information purposes only, so thank you, Mr. Wheeler. We appreciate it. We'll revisit it next month. Okay, the next item is procedure 300-2, sexual discrimination and harassment update.
Thank you, President Getz, Dr. McComas, school board members. This item is for information only. We are bringing forth changes to the grievance process outlined under Title IX law. All the new regulations were updated and released effective August 1st, 2024. So you will see throughout this lengthy document that there are many updates and changes, but the high-level overview of this is that this has, these new regulations have now streamlined the internal process and procedures for us as a smaller school system. The government has eliminated timelines and has given administration the flexibility in how we address these complaints as they come forward. And just to, as I said earlier, to streamline that process. Obviously, there are some changes as well to Dr. Walker's title, as well as my title from supervisor to director. Just to clarify, Dr. Walker will continue to handle all Title IX complaints for students, as I handle all Title IX complaints for staff. Are there any questions? Any comments?
Any questions? This is for information purposes only tonight. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Hushen.
You're welcome.
Appreciate that. Okay, the next item on the agenda is Procedure 800-42, Procurement Procedures. Ms. Stewart.
All right, so this procedure is just for information only. And so essentially what we did with procedure number 800-42, which is the procurement procedures, we've updated it so that the language is in correlation with the policy that is attached to this particular procedure. As you would notice, we also updated so that it can refer to the legal annotation that is along with the policy pertaining to this procedure as well, which I do have a policy that we're bringing forth that I can explicitly show you. But essentially taking out the materials, equipment, and services and adding the school building improvements, supplies, or equipment related to our procurement, updating language concerning, which is the purchasing agent that does handle purchasing the items for the school system, title changes, instead of the supervisor of finance is director of finance, and adding this information to ensure that, you know, the purchasing agent can designate someone authorized to conduct the bidding process. And then lower, if you go to the competitive procurements, this is also in line with what is required as far as the legal annotation, the wording to show where our bids are posted. And then adding the information about our minority contractors and the price offered to the bidder when it comes down to explaining more about the bids. And then updating the amounts, because if you recall, we did update our purchasing policy to match with the state, because now the state's limit is $100,000. And now if we have a vendor where we're going to use their services and it's going to go over $100,000, we do have to go out to bid. So that language correlates with that. As well as we get down here. This shows pretty much the process of getting quotes when you are going, even if you have to go out to bid and when you don't have to go out to bid. So any quotes within the $5,000 to $100,000 range, we are asking for at least 3 vendors. And so this explanation here about all efforts being made to solicit quotations from at least 3 vendors is to correlate with that update, because even though the ceiling is high, at least making the attempt to show that you have reached out to 3 vendors is still, we believe, is good purchasing ethics to make sure that we're aligned with that. I will note and say, as I've said it before, here in Kent County, we do not have a lot of opportunity as a school district that is in like Howard County or Baltimore City or Baltimore County. So, but we do make sure that everyone will try to make the attempt to take those next steps. And then anything that's 5,000 or less, we've added just, you know, wording changes and updates. And then with the sole source, changing that information from 15,000 to 100,000, because again, so what a sole source purchase is, something, a vendor that is needed for distinct specified purchases. I would like to use the example of like special education. There's specific vendors that can tailor to a child's needs, and so times in that case, a sole source would be considered. And if it's over 100,000, we do bring that sole source to the board for approval. So that's pretty much updating that information. And again, wording changes, and then the amounts, if there is an emergency, what that range is, the 5,000 to 25,000, and then another wording change with Kent County Public Schools instead of school. So this is for information purposes only, but if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Are there any questions for this 800-42? Okay. Thank you, Ms. Stewart. Appreciate that. The next item on the agenda is Procedure 800-13, Budget Transfer Authority.
All right. So this is the procedure 800-32 with the Budget Transfer Authority. Again, mainly this changes were made as far as wording and to align with what our current process is. So instead of administration, it would be the Director of Finance will review the budget monthly and determine budget transfers are appropriate. This next paragraph just outlines that when a budget transfer is needed, it is reviewed by the superintendent first, and then the transfers will be sent to the Kent County Board of Education for their approval, and then next to the county commissioners for their approval. So this is for information only, but if you have any questions, I am here to answer.
Any questions for 800-13? Okay, thank you. That was for information purposes only. We'll move on to Policy DBK, Budget Transfer Authority.
Right, so this policy, again, mainly it's wording changes to align with what we currently do in our current process. So again, whenever we're making transfers within major categories, this line here where it says transfers are allowed within major categories without approval from the county commissioners or county council. When transfers are made within major categories, a report identifying the transfer and a narrative detailing the reason for the transfer must be filed with the county within 15 days after the end of each month. And then when you get to the next paragraph, it talks about, this entire paragraph talks about transfers between major categories. And at that point, it does need approval with the county commissioners, but then also outlining that those transfers, if it's between major categories, it comes before the board for approval, and then we do go to the county to obtain approval. So this is a policy, and this is the first read, but if you have any questions, I can definitely answer that for you.
Do we not need to specify an amount, a minimum amount or a maximum amount? Like if it's a transfer below $5,000 or a transfer above $100,000, where we need to go through this complete process? Is there?
I don't believe that there's a minimum that we'll have to do. I do believe that any changes, to abide by it with full transparency, it should come to the board either way. Within the major categories, because like, for example, if you have to move money, if you have money budgeted within, I'll just take the category of transportation, we can move it within and let you know and speak with the superintendent. But between major categories, anything that we change, we do have that full transparency to, as the board, to ask those questions, and imply and get that approval.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Okay, this policy was also first read, as Ms. Stewart mentioned. Not hearing any other questions, we'll continue on. The next item is Policy DJ, Purchasing.
So with this policy, this is, I want to say, in line with the procedure 800-42, and you can see that within this policy, we've made reference to that procedure. Other items are just wording changes and updates. And then again, if you see item D, we changed it from the $25,000 to $100,000 because we are in line with the state and the language that is in accordance with the Nolan Code EDF-112. And so up here, it gives you, to let you know about the $100,000, and the purchasing agent can designate other persons authorized to open bids and record the same. And then just removing the language of adopting procedures in relation to collection of books and audio and visual materials. I think that was something that was probably happening before, but we can definitely revisit that if need be. But these are the updates to the policy, and this is first read, but if you have any questions, I can answer.
Any questions?
Can I ask about the last paragraph about adopting procedures for selecting and purchasing a collection of books and audio and visual materials concerning African American history for use in each public school library. And I'm just curious why that subject specifically was sort of singled out.
I believe essentially with this, in lining with our purchasing process, we may just need to look at it and create a separate procedure or look at the procedures aligning to that. If we're talking like current, I'm not aware of any of us really having these items. I can definitely talk with instruction and then work with Dr. McComas if we need to, keep this in there or reevaluate and look at how we can go and decipher purchasing.
Mr. Constance, please.
Well, so the purchase of materials and instructions, books, things like that is governed under a different section of the Maryland Code than what applies to purchasing of school buildings, materials, equipment, and supplies, which is what's covered by all of these policies and procedures that Ms. Stewart is presenting. So it looked like that this paragraph about purchasing collections of books and audio visual materials was just in the wrong place. It should be under a procedure and policy for the purchase of curricular materials of instruction, which is governed by 7106 of the Education Article, which has a wholly separate process rather than the policies and procedures governing the purchase of buildings, equipment, stuff like that.
If I may just comment, one of the things that you'll notice, since this is not new language, this must have been in this policy at some point, and I am not sure that anybody here is with us when that was originally added, but I agree with Mr. Constance that really pertains to like a curricular or procedural. So we can adjust that.
And I can work with Ms. Gina because we're going to be bringing policies and procedures to you as board members. So when we get to talking about curriculum, we will definitely review that with Adam and make sure that language gets in there.
Great. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, are there any additional questions or comments? This was for information purposes only. Okay, moving along, policy DJA, purchasing authority.
All right, so policy GJA is basically it was just wording and amount changes. So instead of the supervisor of finance is now director of finance, serves as the purchasing agent, and then knowing that any purchase over $100,000 will be taken to the board for approval. And this also updates to show you that the Maryland Code annotated education, section 5-112. So pretty much bringing this up to date to what it is current.
Yeah, the only thing, I'm glad you mentioned that a couple policies ago, because I was thinking that's a big jump from 25,000 to 100,000, but now I understand why, so thank you.
No problem.
Any additional questions? This was for information purposes only. Okay, we're going to move into policy DJC, bidding requirements.
So with this policy, this also is just wording updates, as you have seen in the other procedures and policies I just brought forth for purchasing. You will see with their, purchasing regarding school building, improvement materials, supplies, or equipment. And then in the competitive bid paragraph, the second paragraph here, this is pretty much exactly what it states in section 5-112 of the educational article. And then the same, if you scroll down, it's just wording and updating to align with that Maryland Code annotation. So this here as well is in line and up to date to what our current process and state language should be. So any questions? Again, this is a policy, so it's first read, but any questions I can answer.
Are there any questions for this policy?
I just want to verify, we codified in another policy that the supervisor of finance is the purchasing agent, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Any additional questions? Okay, thank you, Ms. Stewart. That was for information purposes only. We appreciate it.
Anytime.
Okay, we're going to move on to the last item in this section, organization chart update. Dr. McComas.
Yes, so good evening, Mr. Getz, and members of the board and members of the community. I'm here this evening to bring forward work that was begun under my predecessor. This is our organizational chart for this year. Please note that there was a change in titles that really bring us more into alignment with titles for the same level of work that we see in surrounding school systems across the state. We'll also notice that our CTE responsibilities have been added to our Blueprint Coordinator, and it's now labeled Supervisor of Accountability related to the Blueprint, and our Career Technical Education programs, which we learned more about earlier this evening. So this is our first read on this.
Okay, this is for information only tonight. Are there any questions or comments for Dr. McComas? Okay. Not hearing any, we're going to move on to public participation. Ms. Gale, we do not have any public participation. Okay, the next item on the agenda is notification of our next meeting. The next regularly scheduled monthly meeting of the Board of Education of Kent County will be held on Monday, September 9th, 2024, beginning at 5:30 p.m. Open session will be immediately followed by the board members going into closed session. The open session will resume at 6:30 p.m. Both meetings will be located at the administrative building in the boardroom, this room, located at 5608 Boundary Avenue, Rock Hall, Maryland, 21661. The last item on the agenda for this evening is to adjourn. The administration is recommending approval to adjourn this meeting. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
Ms. Sullivan has a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Rhodes has a second. Any further comments, questions? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ms. Swanson?
Aye.
The ayes have it. The meeting is adjourned at 8:31 p.m. Thank you, everyone.